Let us look at some bright news. The Nigerian economy is growing. Whether we believe it or not, the fact is that the economy is growing, and not just by the numbers. Things are happening, maybe not as fast as we need, but for an economy that has been asleep, we feel that we could do a lot more. Things are happening. The regional imbalance in development is hiding this reality. Nigeria has weathered the global economic crisis very well, performing better than the sub-Saharan African countries and the average that they've had over the past 12 years. Our GDP per capita has picked up strongly by as much as 185% in the last 10 years, with a forecast of another 65% over the next 5 years. Many people in government around the country are working hard to make the reforms work. But we have serious emerging challenges. Our population is growing at a rapid rate, with the highest growth rate amongst the 10 emerging economies. It has even been suggested or projected that Nigeria's population will exceed that of the United States by the year 2050 at 402 million people, taking us from number 7 to number 4. About 71% of our population is under the age of 30, and by 2050, over 70% of that figure will be made up of people that are of working age, people we must gainfully employ. We are going to need 3 million new jobs per annum to absorb our graduates. As I speak now, about 30 million Nigerians are under the age of 5, and they're going to grow into the system. Currently, 53% of our population lives in rural areas. By 2050, only 25% of our population will be living in rural areas. Many will try and move into the cities, creating phenomenal pressure on our cities' infrastructure. There are 112 million Nigerians officially living in poverty, that is earning less than $1.25 per day. 50% of the Nigerian population lives without electricity. There is a great imbalance of opportunities across the country and financial inequity, and is a matter of great concern to the leadership. We do have security challenges which reflect the diverse, youthful, and disenfranchised population in our country today. Most of the social upheaval takes its cue from the economic situations of the country. The root cause of all this is purely economic. So, what are our prospects for the future? This is the third issue, and probably the more pertinent issue we must take a position on over the next 3 days. Our overdependence on petroleum poses a major challenge to our future. We are running out of time. The revenue window from petroleum is closing very, very quickly. We must use what is left to diversify our economy. The United States, our largest oil customer, is reducing its importation of oil from Nigeria and is now currently producing 9 million barrels a day. And by 2018, the U.S. will be producing 11 million barrels per day, applying increasing technology to enhance its efficiency in the recovery of what is described as difficult to get at oil. America, too, will be exporting oil. After all, they also need money. Shale gas from the U.S. is being produced at a cost that is just 10% of China's production cost. What chance do we have to sell our LNG? What price will our oil be sold for? Our arguments about our oil benchmark price for our budget will become irrelevant. President Obama has declared clearly that the United States will continue to invest heavily in renewable energy. Here at home, it is no secret that the international oil companies are divesting from Nigeria. Apart from the fact that no new investments have been made in oil fields in the past 5 years, Shell, ENI, and Total have divested from 8 oil concessions in the past 2 years. Shell alone has divested from 2 oil concessions. Conoco is divesting from all its Nigerian assets. Total has sold 20% of its interest to Yusan of China. Our proven reserves are decreasing because there have been no major investment in prospecting for new proven oil reserves. Over 15 other African countries will be producing oil by 2015. We have ceased to be the only oil game in town. Clearly, the PIB raises major questions to be fully debated and resolved. We need to have a strategic response to these possibilities that are becoming very real. So here are some fundamental questions that we need to answer over the next few days at this summit. With deregulation, How are we going to have less of government in things that the private sector can do so as to free up government's cash for the things the private sector cannot be motivated to do? For cost of governance, how can we reduce the cost of managing this economy whilst enhancing the value to the Nigerian people? At the moment, like I said earlier on, we seem to be killing an ant with a sledgehammer. Nigeria's economic prospects. How are we going to diversify our economy away from oil? Even though we have plenty of oil, we still have a problem if nobody's going to be buying. Does it all seem far-fetched? I don't think so. The rest of the world is not waiting for us. Let me close by quoting a statement by a recent guest to this country, Fareed Zakaria, and I quote him. Very profound. A government that is forced to rely on its people for its wealth will look after its people. If the government does not depend on its people for its wealth, it will not care about them. I'll repeat this. A government that is forced to rely on its people for its wealth will look after its people. If the government does not depend on its people for its wealth, it will not care about them. Mr. Vice President, sir, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all to the 18th gathering of the Nigerian Economic Summit with the theme of deregulation, cost of governance, and Nigeria's economic prospects. I invite you all to let us get to work and remain accountable to the 160-odd million Nigerians whose lives could be affected by some of the decisions that we take here today and in the next few days. My personal message is that let those who are not ready to make a positive difference to this economy move out of the way of those who are trying hard to do so. On our part, at the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, we will remain relentless in trying to build a society where the government will depend on the wealth of its people so it can treasure and take care of them. I thank you very much.